All right, guys, today we're going to talk about something exciting. I enjoy talking about truck comparisons, and today we're going to compare the Freightliner M2 and the Isuzu FTR. Both of these are very popular trucks, and at the end of the day, we want you to buy the truck that is right for you, not what everybody else thinks. So please stick around till the end of the video, and we're going to break it down to you, the differences in these two trucks, so that hopefully you can make the right decision in buying your next new truck. This is Marlon with Quality Trucking Equipment in Clare, Michigan, and the only thing we do is build hooklift trucks. All right, so let's talk about these two trucks behind me, and let me say right from the get-go, both of these trucks are good options. Neither one of them is a bad option, and I am not even going to tell you which one that you should buy, which one in my opinion is better than the other. I'm just going to break down some facts to you and let you decide what's right for you. One of the things that I see so often on the Facebook groups is somebody posts, hey, I'm thinking about buying a Freightliner M2. What do you guys think? And then people will jump in and say, oh, the dealership is terrible, or the parts support is terrible, or they rattle and shake. That might be that guy's perspective. What I want to help you do is, what is the right thing for you? Many times a customer calls in here, he says, hey, I'm looking at a truck, I'm thinking about buying a new truck, and I'm thinking about the Isuzu FTR. And I can't believe how many times as we work with the customer and explain to them some of the differences, they end up buying another kind of truck. It's not even the one they originally talked about. So, perfect story. One of our great customers, Alex with All Haul Dumpsters. We did a video with him, and I think back to the very first conversation I had with Alex. He called me up and he said, Marlon, I want to buy a hooklift truck, and I believe I want the Isuzu FTR. I've done my research. I love that truck. It looks like it would be the right truck for me. And so, we talked about a lot of different things, and I asked him a lot of questions because I wasn't sure if that was the right truck for him. But you know what I asked him? I said, tell me about your personal truck. What do you drive? And he's like, oh, it's a Chevy Duramax with all the bells and whistles. It's the LTZ loaded out. And then I asked him, like, are you going to be branding your business? Are you going to be adding more trucks in the future? So then I explained some of these differences, and interestingly enough, he ended up buying a Kenworth T280 with all the bells and whistles because that really fit his business model that he was pursuing for long term. And again, doesn't make one of these trucks better than the other. I'm going to break down the differences so that you can decide. There's also times customers call in and they want a truck because there's something about that truck that they maybe find appealing, but they don't even care if it's a Peterbilt, an International, or Freightliner. Another story, I had a guy call me up. Hey, I want the Freightliner M2. Okay, great. We talked about that truck, and I asked him different questions, and he said, one thing I gotta have is the third seat. I gotta have the third seat. He said, my little boys ride with me. I'm like, great, that's awesome that you take your boys with you when you're hauling dumpsters. The Freightliner M2s we have in stock don't have the third seat. And he said, well, let's just change them out. Get me a price on converting it. And I've done that in the past. I have never actually done a conversion, but I've got the prices, and it's not easy to do. If the truck was not built like that from the factory, the holes in the floor, the brackets for the seat belts, it's a big deal to convert it to the third seat. And I said, well, are you stuck on a Freightliner? He goes, no, I just like the Freightliner because the price was great. And I said, I have an International MV with the third seat. Would you care to look at that truck? And he said, yeah, I'm good with an International. And that's what he ended up buying, is an International. So, we try to help our customers. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of truck you buy. We want to sell you a truck. We want to get you the right truck that fits what you're looking to do in your business. We make pretty much the same profit on any of these trucks here in our lot. So it doesn't matter which brand we sell you. What's important is that we're selling you the truck that's right for you. And sometimes through a series of questions, we can figure that out together, and that's what we're here for. But today we're going to break it down between these two trucks. So I have got the Freightliner M2, I've got the Isuzu FTR. Both of these are under CDL trucks. What makes the FTR? What's the number one reason somebody would consider the FTR? I'm going to tell you right now why that is such a popular truck for us is because of the turning radius and also the footprint of that truck. That truck is shorter. That truck turns sharper than probably any other truck out there. And guys find that very appealing. So when they want an FTR, it's usually somebody that's working in very tight spaces. They're working in the city. They're moving dumpsters down narrow alleys. They have very tight places that they need to get into. That's what makes the FTR very popular. Now, let's just break that down a little bit. So the overall length of the FTR is 23 feet. What do you think the Freightliner M2 is? It's actually not that much longer. It's 24.5 feet. So that's only 1.5 feet longer. And there again, sometimes guys are very shocked at that. They think the FTR is a lot shorter and therefore giving them a lot more room to get around, and that's not always the case. So again, it's not as big of a difference as you might think. Let's talk about specs. Number 2 is the specs on these trucks. So both of them are under CDL. The FTR has a 6.7 liter Cummins engine, 260 horse. Freightliner M2 has a 6.7 liter, 300 horse, and you can get that all the way up to an L9, 360 horse. This is the biggest engine that you can get in the FTR. So that's a big difference right there. Freightliner M2, 3000 series transmission. That gives you live PTO. This one has a 2500 series transmission, which is not a live PTO. That's sometimes a deal breaker for guys when we say, hey, you want to grow your business, run lots of cans every day. Are you sure that you're going to be okay with a truck that doesn't have live PTO? So if you're fine with that, this is a great option. Differential lock. You cannot get the FTR with a differential lock. A lot of people don't know that. And that is very important to a lot of guys, is they gotta have that differential lock because you can't get either of these trucks in 4-wheel drive. Now, I think you can order a Freightliner 4-wheel drive, but it costs like $40,000 more, so that's why you hardly ever see it, especially in a Hooklift truck. So diff lock is important. So the Freightliner M2, yeah, very little added expense to get the diff lock. Now, what you can do on the Freightliner is you can get that, I believe they call it posi track, where you actually take out the whole rear end and swap it out for a posi track rear end. I quoted out for customers already. Nobody has ever actually done it because it's about $4,000 more to take this truck to a place like Weller Transmission and have them swap it out. So I've actually never done it. I don't know if I'd even recommend it because you're taking a brand new truck and doing it, but it is a possibility. It's not a true diff lock, but it's something better than what this has with no diff lock. So those are some of the differences that you need to think about in the specs. Now, going back to the GVW, both of these trucks you can get in 33,000 GVW truck. Most of you know that in the Freightliner. The Isuzu would be the FVR. That's their 33,000 GVW truck. So if you want to take a truck, run at 33, you have the option to do that with both of these trucks, and you can derate both of them if you choose to do that. All right, number 3 is truck maintenance. So I just want to talk about that a little bit because one of my favorite things on the Isuzu is how you can access the engine and transmission. So I'm a mechanic. I always look at that. How easy is something to work on? And let's go around and show you this truck here. You guys all know it. This cab tips forward. It's actually very easy. You got the one lever right here. You just pull it, pull this out. One hand, cab tips up. Locks in place, and ta-da! You have got engine, transmission, radiator. You can crawl up on top, work on this engine. Everything is right there. I would love to change the transmission on an FTR. You just stand in here, pull them bolts out, and put your floor jack underneath there, and that transmission is going to come right out. Imagine changing the radiator. It's right there. You're working on the engine, doing a valve job, adjusting the valves. It's all right there. Let's take a look at the Freightliner M2, and I'll just show you how compact that is. Pop the hood on here. Actually, before we do that, let's just come behind the cab and take a look at that. You can't even see the transmission from here. That transmission is clear up underneath the cab. So if you're doing a transmission job, you're laying on your back and you're reaching up above to get them bolts out, or taking the center plate out in the cab to get them top bolts out and disconnecting all your air lines. So a lot harder. Let's just pop the hood open, take a look underneath there. And again, you can see how compact everything is. Everything's all right there. Again, not a bad thing, but as a mechanic, that's a big deal to me, especially if I'm going to work on my own trucks. If you take everything back to the dealer to get work done, guess what? It doesn't make a difference, because they're going to do the work. They know how to do it, but it's just something to think about. Now, on the Isuzu, I do got to point out, as cool it is to tip that cab forward, think about everything that's inside your cab. There's storage compartments behind the seat. You're going to put your stuff back there. Everything falls forward when you tip that cab forward. So you got to think about that. That is one negative thing about that. But talk about easy access for maintenance on the truck. All right, point number 4 is branding. If you're serious about branding your business, and that's really super important to you, there is a difference on these two trucks on how you go about doing that. So let's just take a look at the Isuzu FTR. I'm going to tell you that that is more of a basic work truck. You've got your painted bumper, you've got your plain black mirrors. I don't even think you can get a overhead visor. I don't think they even make one. It would look kind of weird to have one like that, but that is how you get it. It's even hard sometimes to get them with aluminum wheels. They often have steel wheels. We try to always order them with aluminum wheels, so it just really makes it look better. But it's more of a basic work truck, and you don't have near the real estate to put your branding. You don't have that hood that you can put your branding on. So let's take a look at the Freightliner M2. So you've got your overhead air horns. You've got a nice painted visor. You can get that in stainless steel if you want. You've got chrome on the grill. You've got a nice chrome bumper, chrome around the headlights. You've got real estate if you want to do branding. Think about how your logo would look on right in here, across the hood. You got your doors. So if branding is important, I'm going to tell you that you'll probably be able to do it better with one of these, because this is considered more of your basic work truck. All right, number 5 is the ride. I believe that that's an important factor that you should consider when you're purchasing trucks. So why is that important? First of all, who is going to be operating this new truck? Is it you or is it your driver? And the question you should ask is, what would my drivers rather drive? Do they want this style of truck or this style? What I've seen is a lot of owner-operators are running the FTR because they see the advantages that that truck has. They can get around in very tight places. This truck actually sits higher. You got tremendous visibility with this FTR. I mean, you are sitting right there in the front. But what I've seen is a lot of drivers, company drivers, would rather have a truck like this. But let's just talk about some of the reasons, some of the differences between and how these trucks ride. And the first thing is we're going to look at this FTR. So look at where this front axle sits. It is actually sitting a little bit behind the driver's seat. How does that affect the ride of the truck? I'll tell you right away, these trucks don't ride bad. But many, many years ago, it's probably 25 years ago, when I was working for my boss, that we fixed garbage trucks, and he sent me down to Atlanta, Georgia to pick up a Mack, the MR Mack series front loader garbage trucks. And I flew down there, left early in the morning. I got down there late afternoon, jumped in the truck, and drove all night back to Pennsylvania. I loved running all night like that. And guess what? I didn't have any trouble staying awake. And you know why? That truck rode so rough. Those MR models, as you guys know, that axle sits behind the front seat. And I tell you what, it got to the point where every bridge that I came to on the interstate, I would start to tense up and brace myself because I knew it was going to hit that hard. Now, those trucks do ride worse than this one, but anytime you're sitting on top of your steer axle or slightly ahead of it, you are going to feel those bumps in the road. It is going to be a little rougher riding. You look at the Freightliner M2 here, and you look how this axle is, how far forward from the driver's seat. That is a huge gap, and you're not going to feel it near as quick. So trust me, it does have a better ride. Again, I've drove those Isuzus, and I will tell you, they're not bad, but you will feel those bumps. So think about who your driver is, because we know that finding good qualified drivers is tough. And drivers will look at the fleet and say, what am I going to be driving all day long? The other thing is, I'll be honest, safety. You look at that cab over. I mean, if you rear end something, there is not a lot of cushion on the front. You are literally right here. And if you run into something, there is just not a lot of cushion there. You take a look at this Freightliner M2, and there's a lot of stuff in here in the front end to absorb that impact. So I think about it every time I get in one of these Isuzus, is like, wow, you are right there, literally staring in the windshield right in front of your face. So again, there might be drivers out there that say, I would rather have that extra cushion in the front. So just think about that stuff. Ask your drivers what they would like to drive, because you want to be able to hire drivers that will feel comfortable in these trucks. And maybe there's guys out there that say, hey, I like the maneuverability, I like the turning radius, I like how easy this truck is to get in and out of stuff. I love the Isuzu. The other thing is, the Isuzu has the factory third seat, I believe. I think every FTR comes with that. They have the little bucket seat right in the middle, and that's really neat if you want to carry an extra passenger with you. And there's also tons of storage behind those passenger seat and driver's seat in the Isuzu. There's a lot of space behind there to lay tools, whatever you got, whereas the Freightliner M2 cab is going to be smaller. You're not going to have quite the storage compartments there on the inside. So guys, we're going to wrap this up. I've given you some things to think about. Again, we want to get you the right truck. We don't care which truck you buy, but we do want to get the truck that's right for you, because the worst thing that we can do for you is to oversell you on something that we think you want, and then you find out 6 months in it, it's not the truck that you wanted. So it's important to us, when you come to our place here to buy a truck, that we ask you the right questions and make sure that you leave with the truck that's going to work for you, your driver, and the growth of your company. So again, both of these trucks are great options. You will not go wrong with either one of them, as long as you make sure that it works for you. There's very little price difference between these two trucks. The Isuzu does usually run a couple $1,000s less. It could be about $5,000 less. So that is a fair number to look at. But again, they're both great choices. We sell a ton of both of these. They're very, very popular, so that I know guys like them. But I hope this helps you make your decision on what you should buy. So guys, drop it in the comments below. Tell us what you think of these two trucks. Tell us what truck comparisons you want us to do next, and we will be happy to do them, because that is my favorite topic to talk about, is trucks, and I love answering those questions. So call us, we can help you. We have Hooklift trucks in stock, ready to go, ready to help your business grow, ready to put you to work, and ready to make you money. You call us, we can help you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep it quality.